Hi everyone, thanks for checking out this video. So in the last video, we went over the topic for the first project and kind of introduced the project. And before we start really getting into the project, we're gonna quickly have the fastest statistics class of all time, basically. So yeah, I have this video for you guys, which will basically be like the fastest statistics class of all time, hopefully. Yeah, just to like quickly introduce an intuitive way of thinking about statistics, so that some of what we're doing in the project will make more sense when we get to it. Okay, so what is statistics? The definition I'm going to put to you guys is that statistics is basically a way of putting a number on coincidences. So that might sound strange at first, but yeah, this is what I find to be a helpful framework for thinking about it. It's a way of putting a number on coincidences using probability theory. That's what statistics is about. And yeah, of course, many people might disagree with my definition, but I think this is at least a good definition for getting in the mindset to reason about what we're talking about. Okay, so let me explain, because this might be confusing at first. So let me explain what I'm talking about here. So here's a thought experiment for you guys to think about. Let's say you have a coin and you want to know if it's a fair coin, meaning the same probability of landing on heads or tails when you flip it, meaning 50% heads, 50% tails every flip, or if it's a biased coin that's like a trick coin that's weighted towards heads or tails, so that it's not a 50-50 chance, but one of them is actually more likely than the other. It's like a cheating like weighted coin. So this is the thought experiment. How many flips of the coin would it take for you to know with absolute certainty that the coin is biased, that it's not a fair coin, that it's not 50-50? How many flips would be required to know that with absolute certainty? So here's some scenarios to think about. What if you flip it 3 times and you get heads every time? What if you flip it 10 times and you get heads every time? What if you flip it 1,000,000 times and you get heads every time? How many flips does it take of getting heads every time for you to be absolutely certain that the coin is biased and weighted towards heads? Okay, so here's a philosophical musing for you guys to think about. It's actually impossible to ever say with absolute certainty that the coin is biased, because even if you flip a coin 1,000,000 times and you get heads every single time, it could still just be a coincidence. It could be that it's a fair coin that's equally likely to be heads and tails, and you're just seeing a really extreme coincidence. It would be super unlikely to see that, but it's at least theoretically possible that could happen with a fair coin. It would just take a very extreme coincidence. So yeah, it's impossible to ever say with absolute certainty that a coin is biased. We can never say that with absolute certainty, because even 1,000,000 flips getting heads every time could still be a coincidence. But the idea of statistics is that we can put a number on how big of a coincidence would be required to see a result like that, assuming that the coin were fair. We can talk about like how much of a coincidence that would take with a fair coin to see 1,000,000 flips of heads getting heads every time. Because yeah, like the insight here is that there are different degrees of coincidences. So if you flip a coin 3 times and get heads 3 times, that's like a small coincidence. That would be assuming that the coin is fair. You could see 3 heads out of 3 flips with a fair coin with a pretty small coincidence. But if you flip the coin, if you flip a fair coin 1,000 times and you get heads 1,000 times, that would be a huge coincidence. So again, it's still theoretically possible to get 1,000 heads out of 1,000 flips with a fair coin, but that would require a huge coincidence. So we can talk about, like, based on different results we see, different degrees of a coincidence being required. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you guys through a quick hypothetical experiment that you could do and how to apply a statistical reasoning approach to it. So let's say again we have this scenario with a coin that you want to know if a coin is fair, meaning equal chance of heads and tails, 50-50 each, or if the coin is like biased and weighted in one direction. Okay, so here's the approach. Here's the statistical way of thinking about this. First, you assume that the coin is fair, and we call this the null hypothesis. You start with the assumption that the coin is fair, and then you do an experiment. You flip the coin 5 times, and just see what results you get. Let's say the results are 5 heads and 0 tails. So you flip the coin 5 times and you got 5 heads. Then this is the part that involves a little bit of probability theory calculations. What you do at this point is you say, okay, assuming the null hypothesis is true, meaning assuming that the coin is fair, what are the chances of seeing a result at least as extreme as the one I got due to coincidence alone? So yeah, like, what are the chances of a result this extreme happening by coincidence, assuming the coin is fair? And you can do a little bit of probability calculations. So it's 0.5 to the 5th power times 2, and you get 6.25% chance of seeing a result this extreme happening due to coincidence. And just by the way, the reason we're multiplying by 2 here is because it could have also been 5 tails by coincidence, which would have been equally as extreme. So we're doing, so yeah, we need to check both ends of the extreme, 5 heads and 5 tails. So yeah, basically calculating how likely it would be to see a result as extreme as the one we got by chance if the coin were fair, if it were 50% chance of heads every time. So yeah, just in case I confused any of you guys, just to explain this math here. This 0.5 is the 50% chance of heads every flip, and we got 5 heads out of 5. So it's the chance of that happening is 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5. But a simpler way of doing that is just 0.5 to the 5th power. So this term here is the probability of getting 5 heads out of 5. But then we could have also gotten 5 tails out of 5, and that would have been equally as extreme of a result. So we multiply by 2 to account for that. Yes, I hope you guys followed that. But if that's confusing to anyone, just let me know in the comments. I can try to like further explain. Okay, so this number here, 0.0625, this probability of seeing a result this extreme by chance, assuming that the coin is fair, this is called a p-value. Again, a little bit of jargon here. So yeah, this is called a p-value. The probability of seeing a result as extreme as the one you got by coincidence, assuming that the null hypothesis is true. So this is the number that is like the key, the key number here. When I said we're trying to put a number on coincidences, this p-value is the number we're putting on it. This is the probability of seeing a result that's extreme as the one we got by coincidence, assuming that the null hypothesis is true, meaning assuming that nothing unusual is going on and the coin is actually fair. So yeah, the conclusion of this experiment is like, is the coin biased? Well, we can't be sure because we said before that even if we flip it 1,000,000 times and we get 1,000,000 heads, we can never be 100% absolutely certain that the coin is biased. So yeah, we can never be absolutely certain, but we can put a number on how much of a coincidence would be required to see the results we got if the coin were fair. And yeah, so the smaller the p-value is, the lower this number is, the more of a coincidence would be required. Because it's basically saying this is the probability of seeing a result as extreme as the one we saw by coincidence if the coin were fair, if the null hypothesis were true. So the smaller this number is, the more extreme of a coincidence would be required to see the result that we saw if the coin were not actually biased. Okay, so a little bit of jargon for you guys, and the jargon really isn't the important part. The important part, and what I want to communicate to you guys in this video, is how to intuitively think about statistics and be able to like reason intuitively about what we're talking about. So that's really the important part, not like memorizing these terms. But yes, some of these terms come up enough that like maybe it is useful to memorize them. So yeah, these are a couple of them. So the null hypothesis, like we said, is the in simple terms, the assumption that nothing unusual is going on. So in our example, it's the assumption that the coin is fair, that it's equally likely to be heads or tails. The alternative hypothesis is another hypothesis besides the null. So in our example, the alternative hypothesis is the hypothesis that the coin is biased, that it's not a fair coin, that it's weighted towards being heads or tails more than 50% of the time. And the p-value is the probability of seeing a result at least as extreme as the one we were seeing due to coincidence, assuming that the null hypothesis is true. Yeah, so we calculated that in that example we just did. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Again, just trying to like introduce an intuitive way to think about this so that when we start using this approach in the project, it will hopefully make sense. And yeah, so just to like briefly allude to what we're going to be doing in the project. So we talked before in the previous video about like the general setup for this project. We have gene expression data for this IPF disease and for control samples. So it's diseased lung tissue samples versus control lung tissue samples that don't have the disease. And we're going to have a bunch of samples in each condition, and then measurements for a lot of genes, like close to, what was it, like 18,000 or so genes, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So the statistical approach we're going to use when we start looking at this data and trying to analyze it is basically going to be like for each gene, we're going to try to figure out if there's a difference in the distribution of gene expression measurements between the two conditions. So for example here, in gene 4, if we just look at these numbers, it looks like gene 4 has lower expression measurements in the IPF samples compared to the control samples. So yeah, it looks like that by looking at it. But it's hard to say. Like if this is just a coincidence we're seeing or not, because some of these other genes, yeah, there is like random variation in them. In like all the genes, there's random variation across the samples. And it could be that this, like what appears to be lower numbers in the IPF compared to the control samples, it could just be a coincidence we're seeing due to like the random variation. So the goal of the project is going to be, one of the goals of the project, one of the goals of the analysis we're going to do is going to be to use a statistical test to try to figure out if this is a coincidence or if there's a real underlying difference between the conditions in terms of the difference in expression levels, basically. So yeah, we're going to try to put a p-value on the probability of seeing as much of a difference between the distributions of gene expression measurements as we're seeing by coincidence if they were actually from the same underlying distribution and were only different due to like randomness without a consistent pattern. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Again, this is just like a brief intuitive introduction to how to like reason about statistics. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, maybe it'll make more sense when we start actually doing this project and start actually applying this approach. But yeah, if there's any questions, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to answer them. And yeah, thanks for watching and see you guys next time.